Hi there, my name is Thiago. I'm the founder of Dear Designer. You might have seen me around a few Facebook groups online, but most of you probably don't know me since I've always been more of a backstage guy. So let me start by telling you a little bit about my background. I am from a city on the southeast coast of Brazil called Santos. If you're into football or soccer, if you're American, you probably know some players from there. Pelé, Neymar, Robinho, they're all from my city back in Brazil, Santos. It's a nice beach, it's an amazing place. Anyway, I've been working with design and development for over 20 years now. And back in Brazil, I had a digital agency and an advertisement magazine. And then around 12 years ago, I sold my business and moved here to the UK. Everything was new to me, a different country, a different language. I had no family around, no friends, not even a job. So I found a job here as an au pair, and if you don't know what an au pair is, it's just like being a nanny, but you also do house chores. I was looking after 2 kids for a family in the north of England. I also cleaned the house, cooked, ironed the clothes, did the dishes, and I was getting paid around £60 a week, which is about $75. It wasn't very easy, but I believe it helped me learn English a little bit, also helped shape my character and my personality a lot. But after that, I got a job as a junior designer here in London, and I started growing a career here in the UK. My last job as an employee was the head of creative for the Daily Mail Group, where I worked with lots of big brands such as Coca-Cola, Samsung, Toyota, Starbucks. And as you probably know, the advertisement business is very, very seasonal. So I worked with around 10, 12 designers plus a few developers and content writers. But many, many times I had to hire freelancers to cover all the ad hoc work for the company. Like many of you, I found it really, really hard to get design work done, whether it was in-house or hiring freelancers. And during this time, I realized that the traditional way of working has changed completely over the years. The growing trend now is outsourcing. Even in the design industry, outsourcing design work has completely revolutionized the way we do business. Many agencies have been outsourcing their work to scale, to expand the pace of their business, or even to improve efficiency. Alright, so what are the top reasons to outsource? Let me show you a few numbers from the survey done by Deloitte a few years ago. As you can see, 59% of the people were trying to reduce or control the costs, 57% trying to focus on the core functions of the business, 47% to solve capacity issues, 31% to improve the service, 28% to gain access to expert talent pool and knowledge, 17% to manage business environment, and 17% to scale and accelerate organization transformation. So why should you outsource design work? The most obvious reason to outsource design tasks is the lack of design skills. Of course, not everyone is a Photoshop wizard, right? So if you don't know how to design, but you still try to work with those tools like Canva or even Photoshop, you risk creating something that looks unprofessional, which will eventually devalue your brand. Look, you might even have an amazing service, but if your brand in your online presence, your website, your social media, they don't look good, people might not trust you to deliver a good service. Another reason people outsource their design work is to focus on the core business. Alright, maybe you are a Photoshop wizard, but since you're running a business, you're probably wearing way too many hats and you often feel stretched too far, right? When you outsource your tasks, you get your time and your money back by gaining the capacity and the skills of an entire team at a fraction of the cost of hiring your own in-house team. With this time, you can focus on what's really important for your business. Let's be honest, your hour is probably worth more than doing anything else other than design work, right? Now, the biggest reason why teams outsource their design work is to cut costs or the headcount. You probably know that having a full-time designer is very expensive. According to PayScale, which is a website that does benchmarks for salaries, it costs around $2,300 per month in average just for a career level designer. And that doesn't even include taxes, training, vacation, and sick days off. Obviously, having an in-house designer is not for everyone. Some people also outsource their design tasks to save time. And I won't even spend too much time on this topic as it's very obvious. If you delegate your design work, you have more free time to do anything else, period. Enhance quality and specialization. You might be a good agency, but are you a great agency? What do I mean? Your in-house designer, or even yourself, might be great at designing websites, but maybe you're not as good with logos or banner ads. So instead of creating a good enough branding package to sell to your clients, if you outsource it to someone that specializes in branding, it can not only make you look great, but also help you build a long-lasting relationship with your clients. Think in terms of recurrent revenue. Scale. Like any other company or agency, I'm sure that you go through very busy times, but also slow times, right? So when you outsource your design work, you can always adapt to the volume of work you're facing at any time. More work in the pipeline? Add more designers to your team. Having a slow month? One designer is probably enough. So you see, business rarely scale at a consistent pace. You can always speed up the process and slow it down when you need to. And you can do that by getting the exact number of designers you need to meet the demand you're facing without having to waste time hiring, onboarding new employees. But you can only do that by outsourcing. In a regular setup, you wouldn't be able to do that. That would be very time consuming, that would take so much money and energy from you. So when you outsource, you're able to do all that as well. Many people also outsource their design work to get fresh ideas. Outsourcing can help your company expand into a new niche or even offer services outside your most common packages to give your clients what they want. Let's say your experience is strictly in web design, right? So when you want to expand into print work, outsourcing the work to a service that has a strong background in print can help your company bridge that gap and deliver outputs that exceeds your clients' expectations. So outsourcing is also a very effective way to get fresh ideas, to keep up with the new trends, and to avoid being outdated in the design world. Right, having all of that in mind, you do need to be ready to outsource. When is the time to outsource? Ask yourself, do your designs look professional and visually engaging? Do people tend to compliment your brand, your online presence, or your portfolio? As I mentioned before, there are lots of companies out there that have an amazing service, but when you check their website or their social media, it looks a bit amateur and polished, and most people end up judging them by their looks. So if I see a website that doesn't look great, I'll probably skip it without even thinking twice. Another thing to think about is the time you spend doing design work adding value, or would it be better spent focusing on other essential aspects of the business? As a business owner, your hour is probably worth way more doing something else. And even if you're a designer, since you're growing a business, shouldn't you stop wasting time with the actual design work? It's completely okay if you want to keep doing design, but remember, you only have 24 hours in your day, so you won't be able to scale much. Are you ready to lose control and let go? If you're a control freak, outsourcing is not for you. I'm talking from experience here. I've been a designer for over 20 years, and I had this exact problem when I started. Every time I asked a designer to do some work for me, I ended up retouching it to my liking. It was never good enough, so I never wanted them to complete the design without me giving my input. But it took some time, and I eventually learned how to delegate and how to let go of the control. The thing is, most times, the design deliver was really good. In fact, our clients wouldn't even notice the difference. They wouldn't know if it was me doing the work or someone on my team. So I finally learned to let go of the control and trust my team. Nowadays, some of our designers do a much better job than I ever did, especially since they keep constantly learning and they are always up to date with the new trends, whereas I don't have the time anymore. If you want to outsource your work, you have to understand that the outcome might not end up being exactly what you had in mind. But that doesn't mean that it's not great. Do you have ongoing design work? If you're looking to get one-off projects, outsourcing might not be worth the trouble. The real value comes with time, by building a relationship with you and your design team to the point that they know your preferences, your likes, your dislikes, and this relationship will only build as you work with them. One-off projects might not cut it. Of course, you can always outsource the odd project here and there, maybe a logo for a client or even a landing page, but if your agency doesn't have constant need for ongoing design work, just get a quick freelancer to do it. Don't waste too much time looking for a solution. Trust me, it will take time, money, and lots of tries to find someone really worth it. Now, if you do have ongoing design tasks, you should highly consider outsourcing them. Alright, so by now you probably decided that you will end up outsourcing your design work. So what are your options? Well, we all have that little cousin that did a quick crash course in Photoshop, right? You'll be able to pay him in chocolates, but the quality of the work will not be there. It will be definitely questionable. So your little cousin will deliver the designs whenever they're free, and you might even not be very happy with the output. Then there are some freelance websites like Fiverr or Upwork where the prices are really random. You can pay per hour or per project. The quality is obviously a surprise, as it will vary according to the professionals that you choose, as well as the speed. Sometimes it might be a couple of days, might be a couple of weeks, and if you need more work done, you're not likely to get consistency on your brand, and the satisfaction is definitely not guaranteed. Now, if you decide to invest more money on getting design work done, you could always try to go to a design agency. The quality of their work tend to be great depending on the agency. They will have highly skilled designers with many different people that do different things, illustrators, web design, print design, but the delivery of speed might be a downside, as they might have internal processes that can take weeks to get started. And although the satisfaction is not guaranteed, it's much better than working with random freelancers. There are also a few design contest websites out there where the price is not too bad, but just like with freelancers, the quality varies a lot. The speed of delivery is usually from 2 days to a week per project, but if you need more work done, there won't be consistency at all, since each time you request something, it will be delivered by different people. And then again, the satisfaction is not guaranteed as well. And finally, there are the new kids on the block, which is hiring a remote team, most commonly known as on-demand design services, which my company, Dear Designer, is part of it. So with on-demand design services, the price is fixed most of the time, so there are no surprises, no hourly fees or long commitments. The quality does vary according to the service you choose. Some services are better than others due to the designer-client ratio, or even the quality of the designers. The speed is quite fast comparing to the other options. You usually get your designs back between 1 to 3 days, and they tend to keep consistency on the brand side of things. Also, many services offer a money-back guarantee, so there's nothing to lose if you end up trying them first. So here's a quick comparison table. If you want to take a look or a screenshot, be my guest. I'm going to leave it here for a second. Now, whatever you choose, you should know that outsourcing is not a walk in the park. It's not that easy. So what are the main issues with outsourcing to a remote team? True, outsourcing your design work can save you a lot of time and money, but only if you do it correctly. You see, many people try to outsource their tasks and they end up paying a lot more money than they had anticipated. And that's usually because of communication issues. In order to avoid outsourcing problems, you have to bear in mind a few things. One of them is language barrier. Always make sure whoever you outsource your work to is proficient in English. Also have in mind that in some countries they don't have the same slangs and some things might have a different meaning in different cultures. This comes up more often than you would realize. Time difference. If you're outsourcing your tasks to different countries, you will have to accept that there is a time gap there. Forget about urgent. Sometimes urgent might not be possible no matter how much money you spend. Learn to work with more spaced lead times, include them in your processes and in your deadlines, and make sure that not only your clients are aware of it, but also your team. Power and internet issues. Some countries suffer from power interruption and internet issues very frequently. It is frustrating, it will delay your plans sometimes, but there's nothing you can do about it. Again, always work with longer lead times and always keep your clients informed. Transparency goes a long way and your clients will be very understanding and they will appreciate it. Lack of processes. Many people waste their time and therefore their money because they don't have set processes in place when they delegate. If you don't define processes, things can get messy, the communication might not flow well, and it will frustrate not only yourself, but also your team. When you delegate, set standard processes in place. Decide who will do the work and who will approve it. Set deadlines, when should they be done by, and what are the expectations. These will avoid confusion, headaches, and wasting time. Trust. As I mentioned before, you need to be able to trust the people you delegate the work to, and it might sound a bit weird, but you don't want a yes person, or someone just to take orders. You need someone with whom you can collaborate and share ideas. So whenever you delegate your design work, trust them to deliver it. They'll probably make a lot of mistakes in the beginning. Let them make them. Let them make them because it's making mistakes that they learn the most and they take ownership of the work. I bet you fell to the ground over and over again before you learned how to walk, right? But here you are and you don't need anyone to help you do that now. So let them make mistakes. Don't save the day. And you will see that eventually they will come around and you will build that trust. Cultural fit. When you outsource your design work to people in a different country, you'll find that there's a lot of cultural differences. So bear in mind that they might not be the perfect fit, especially in the beginning, but as you work with them, they will adjust, okay? So don't worry about it, that is just part of the process. Revisions. One of the features we offer at Dear Designer is unlimited revisions. Why? Because people change their minds all the time. So you will probably ask your designer to change the designs many times over and over, and also you might not like the initial designs, especially in the beginning of working with them, because it takes some time for them to adjust, it takes some time for them to get to know your preferences, your likes and dislikes, but they will get there. You see, designers are not mind readers, so make sure you are always very specific on what you need, and give plenty of details on your briefs. And yes, you will need to write proper briefs because that's your job. Delays. That's very simple. Like anything in life, delays will happen. They will always happen. Emergencies happen. People get sick. Designers get creative blocks sometimes. It's all part of life. It's all part of the creative game. So try not to be too upset whenever that happens, especially because sometimes they're just one-offs. Sometimes the designers are not feeling very well, or they're just having an issue. It might not be very constant, so bear that in mind. Nitpicking small details. When you outsource, you're either trying to save time or money, or even both. So try not to give too much attention to details that are not very important. Let your designer surprise you. If your designs are for a client, show it to them even before you make any assumption. And even if you believe that the creative direction could have been different from what you had in mind, your client might end up liking what your designer did. So remember, it doesn't matter if you like it, it doesn't matter if your designer likes it, what matters is if your audience likes it and responds to it positively. Now, there are a few considerations to make when you outsource graphic design. The first one is budget. You need to decide what you can afford to spend on your graphic design and how much it will cost you if you decide to outsource. As we discussed earlier, the cost of outsourcing will vary depending on who you choose to work with. Some solutions will come with varied pricing, some with hidden fees, and others with fixed price. They all work, but in different cases. It's all a matter of choosing what's right for you right now. Another point is turnaround time. Each alternative will give you different delivery deadlines. If you work with freelancers, for example, you might receive your designs within a day, or you might have to wait a whole week. Same with agencies, since they have internal processes, brainstorming, discovery sessions, all this kind of stuff. And if you work with on-demand design services, some of them will deliver the work to you on the next day, like ours, or up to 3 days depending on the complexity of your request. Sourcing and hiring. If you choose to outsource your work to freelancers, you probably have to do the sourcing yourself, and the hiring, and the training. And I'm sure you know that just looking for good freelancers takes a lot of time, money and energy. I'm sure if you ever delegated your design work to freelancers, you have already been there. Not even mentioning the onboarding, making sure that all their needs are met, dealing with sick days, promotions, keeping them motivated. That also happens with in-house designers. It's not very easy, so have that in mind if you choose to work with freelancers. If you end up outsourcing your work to an agency, you will still have to look for a good one, and absolutely won't be cheap, but you won't have many of those issues. Now, if you choose to outsource to an on-demand design service, referrals might be a best option for you to look for, since there are many service providers out there, and although they might look the same, they are very different. Their target audience is different, the requirements are different, even the scope of the work, the speed of delivery. For example, some companies, they do logos and branding, other companies they don't. Others don't do websites and landing pages or infographics. Some will deliver designs on the next day, others will take longer. So if you know someone that has used one of those services, they will tell you which one is good for each one of the things that you're looking for. Another thing to consider is who will manage your design team. Bringing in a design resource doesn't magically solve all your design problems. You still have to create defined briefs, set expectations, deadlines, and make sure that they are delivering good output. So before you even outsource it, have in mind that you need to decide who will manage them, who will look after the whole process. Another thing is transparency. Are you going to tell your clients that you outsource their designs? Maybe you feel that they have the right to know, or maybe there's no reason to tell them at all. There are some companies that do white label designs, for example, so there's no right answer to this question. You just need to find out what works for you. So make sure that whoever you choose to do the design work for you is very comfortable with your options. You also need to define your processes. How will you handle all conflicts with your designer? Trust me, there will be conflicts. So if you go to the freelance route or the agency route, make sure that you have them sign a contract before they do any work. A contract that clearly states how much you will pay them, when they will need to get paid, and how the conflicts will be resolved. Make sure to always work with an experienced lawyer to draft that enforceable contract for you. If you choose an on-demand design service, things get a bit easier since you pay for a month up front and you can cancel anytime. Most services don't tie you into a long-term contract and also have a money-back guarantee. So if something goes wrong and you decide to part ways, you're free to do so anytime. One of the questions we get a lot is, what can a remote design team do for me? As I mentioned earlier, the scope of service varies from one service to another, but most design services offer anything from a business card to infographics. Some services like Dear Designer are very complete. They can do logos, brand guidelines, website design, landing pages, slide decks. So a remote design team can pretty much take care of all your design needs, depending on who you choose to work with. And how do you save money by using a remote design team? An in-house designer costs more than $2,000 a month, right? A remote design team will charge you around $500 a month, so it's around 1/4 of having an in-house designer. True, with an in-house designer, you have them for 8 hours a day, whereas with a remote design team, you probably get a bit less since each designer is shared with other clients. But it's also true that you don't have to worry about sourcing, hiring, training, the head count. If your in-house designer gets sick for a week, for instance, you're left hanging. Whereas with a remote design team, they always have backup designers for this situation. Your in-house designer will not have all the skills that you might need. They are either a web designer or a print designer. Some don't know how to create bespoke illustrations. Others don't work well with image retouching. With a remote design team, you get assigned to one designer, but in our case, for example, your designer works in a squad, and each squad has many designers with different skills. So whenever you request something that your designer is not great at, they will have a whole team of designers to help them out. And you end up getting the best of all worlds without even having to think about how it was done. For example, you get assigned to a web designer. When you get assigned to a web designer, one day you might need some print work done. Your designer might not be the best fit to do the print work, so what they will do is they will go back to their squad and they're going to ask, hey, can someone here that is really good with print help me out with some print design work that I have to do? Then they will collaborate, they will work together and deliver the designs back to you. And then again, you get the best of all worlds because they work in a squad. Many people also forget to think about how to communicate with a remote design team. And there are lots of ways of doing it. Some people just use email, but I always recommend using a project management tool like Trello or Asana or Airtable, anything that makes it easy to quickly visualize what they're working on. I also recommend using a live chat, something like Slack or Microsoft Teams. It doesn't really matter, whatever you choose. Those are very helpful since you can speak to them in real time. And another way to get your processes aligned is to build a knowledge base with a software like Notion or even Google Docs. Just something where you can get all your documentation quickly available so everybody can follow them without any confusion. And how to avoid too much back and forth and countless revisions, or even avoiding getting designs back that you don't like. First of all, get the design brief right. One of the most important things for getting great results is writing very clear specifications. For example, when a client requests a logo from us, we always ask them what kind of logo they have in mind. Is it text only? Do they want an icon or a character? Is it going to be feminine, young and playful, or loud, simple and modern? What kind of fonts do they like? What about the colors? You see, a good designer needs all these information even before they get started, so they can create a relevant design for your target audience. We also ask clients to send examples of designs they like, links with inspirations, pegs, anything that can put the designer on the right direction. Another question that always comes up is what other useful information should we include in a brief? At Dear Designer, we have a simple form for clients to fill in, but a good rule of thumb would be naming the request properly. So, for example, Social media graphics for WP Agency Summit. Naming it correctly avoids a lot of confusion. We also ask for a general description of what needs to be designed. If they don't already have their brand guidelines, we ask them for their logos, for their fonts, preferred colors, any kind of imagery that they like to display on the designs, and the most important thing, the copy, which is the content that will go on the designs. We also request some practical things like the deadline, how they like to get the files, whether it's in PNG, JPEG, Adobe files, and etc. And one of the most important things we ask clients is for them to send us any kinds of examples or even a sketch, pen and paper will do, of what they have in mind. Those are extremely important so the designer can spend more time channeling the creativity into their designs instead of just scouring the internet looking for inspiration. How do successful agencies leverage remote design teams? In order to talk about that, I will use an example of an agency that has been working with us for a long time now. Marquez is a web design agency, so their main service is delivering websites to clients. They leverage our team at Dear Designer by getting us to design websites for all their clients and anything from the initial mock-up to the final designs. But that's just the beginning. They also use us to create logos and branding to their clients that are just getting started, alongside with flyers, brochures, any print materials that they might need. They also get us to create bespoke templates for their clients to use on their social media platforms, and even small stuff like Christmas cards and quick infographics. Right now they have around 5 of our designers working with them, and that's the beauty of getting a remote design team. When you grow, we will scale with you. So whenever you need more designers on your team, you can always get them. You can always add them to your team. You see, when your agency starts to outsource design work, you mainly have in mind the main thing that you need done. But as you work with your remote team, you'll find out that they can deliver anything and everything that you need. That will also help you to branch out and offer other services to your clients, like any add-ons or other added value stuff. With a remote team, you can even start getting a recurrent revenue stream, since they will do all the design work for you. And the most important thing, your clients will be paying for all the service anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. The best example of a remote design team I can give you by experience is my own company. Dear Designer is a premium on-demand design service, which is like having your personal design team without the hassle of hiring anyone. So when you sign up, we match you with one of our designers that will always do the design work for you. Your designer will learn your brand, your preferences, create all the designs for you, just as if they were part of your team. Anything from business cards, flyers, brochures, to logos, branding guides, social media assets, and even landing pages and websites. You also get an account manager to do all the admin work, the boring stuff, so your designer can focus 100% on being creative. And we also give you a quality analyst, which is like a safety net that will make sure that your requests and your designs match and there are no mistakes on it. The great thing about it is that you get all of that for a fixed monthly fee. So you pay the same price every month, no hourly fees, no surprises, and all in all, it ends up being way more affordable than hiring freelancers. So just to conclude, there are many design services out there, and I invite you to look for the solution that fits you best. Thanks so much for listening. If you have any other questions, feel free to get in touch. Lots of success.